Good evening, Berks County. I'm Patti Pugliese Rentschler, and welcome to our another nighttime edition of Work at Wellness, Wellness at Work. It is Thanksgiving week here, and we are coming up on the end of what has been an astounding year in very, very many ways. We are happy to have brought you some really good programming this year. Some wonderful people in our community have shared their talents and their gifts and the things that they're doing. One of the most exciting shows that we did for me was early this summer, and I did a show on hair extensions. I've always had a lifetime dream to have long hair, and 6 months into it, we still have the hair. At that time, I was able to meet one of the most extraordinary women I've ever met. And I went back to see her after the hairdo was over, and we went back and we talked about some things, about a lot of different things, and I can only describe it as Life Lessons, and that's the title of our show tonight. So I'm going to share with you some of the things that we talked about. Grace Davies has been a mentor to a lot of women in our community coming along as businesswomen. She has built a successful business of her own, Grace's Golden Comb. And just about the time in her life when she was ready to retire and go off and do the next thing, life threw her a curve, and that certainly does happen. And she shared some of that with me. When I went to her home, I also met 10 of her very closest friends, and it blew my mind. Let's have a look at a day in the life of Miss Grace Davies, an extraordinary, amazing woman. So, and quite a little family you have here.
Yes.
Now let's meet everybody. Let's meet everybody. Now who do we have here?
This is Buttons. Buttons is 9 years old, and she's my husband's dog.
Okay.
And this
and
is
who's eating your microphone?
This is Juliana Grace. She's the one that my daughter told me I would never want one of, but the day I brought her home, she stole her. So I don't get to be with Juliana too often.
I see. And this breed, no wait, let's do by breed too. What is Buttons?
Buttons is a Pomeranian.
Okay.
And Juliana is a Papillon.
Papillon, like the butterfly.
Like the butterfly.
That's the name. Okay.
And that's why they call them butterfly dogs, because of the ears and the markings in their faces.
Oh yeah, the head could be very butterfly-ish.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they're called, and they're used in photography a lot.
Very.
She is my top model.
She's fabulous for the costumes. We're going to talk about. They're all beautifully dressed. We're going to talk about now that
This is Chelsea. Chelsea is my little baby that. And Chelsea's she'll be 3 in August. And she just loves to get dressed, and she loves to beg me to hold her all the time, just like a baby.
I see. And we've got one over here.
Chelsea and Charity is the same age.
This little one and this.
And this one. And Charity is a Maltese, but they're bred down from terriers and poodles. So she has a lot of curly hair, so I keep her cut short.
Of course, you're the hairdresser for all of them as well, aren't you?
Yes. So I keep her hair cut short. But Charity is a wonderful, wonderful little baby, and she'll be 3 in August also.
And do you have one here peeking over your shoulder?
This is Sandy Mariah. Mariah is my great-grandmother's name.
Oh.
I do not own Sandy. Sandy belongs to Foxy Furs. It's a breeder over in Moulton.
Okay.
And Sandy's pregnant with babies. Come here, Sandy.
Oh.
Sandy's having babies soon. And
how many do they have at one time?
Well, sometimes they have 1, sometimes they have 2. Diane told me that she had one that had 5 babies one time.
But that's unusual for that many.
But
so they're generally
Sandy
1 or 2.
might have a lot of babies because she's only a month pregnant, and she is pregnant.
Well, bless you.
But she is so sweet. I told Diane once, if someone would come in and say, Grace, you can only have 1 dog, which one would you keep?
Wouldn't that be a torturous?
Yes, but
torturous thing.
But at one point in my life, it would be Sandy, because Sandy is just so gorgeous.
Sandy is very delightful. Well, they all greeted me very. Now, I'm not really what you would call an animal person, but they're just delightful, and they're being so friendly. Now, who's my new best friend here?
This is Pebbles.
Pebbles, why don't you go see Mommy?
Pebbles? I don't own Pebbles either.
Okay.
Diane, Foxifer on Pebbles.
Okay. Now, when you say you don't own them, are they just visiting, or are they here to breed?
Oh,
or
no. They're here until Diane wants them back to breed them.
Okay.
Or Well, these two are not going to be sold. They're breeding dogs for her.
Okay.
But I like hair. I like to comb the hair, and she wants them in full coat. So I keep them for her.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So I just like them, and Diane said to me one time, Grace, you never have to buy another dog because you can get my puppies anytime you want. Oh. I had little Magic for 5 months, and she got sold. Magic was a beautiful, beautiful little baby. Is it painful,
the separation? Or is
no, because I know they're not mine.
Okay.
Now, if something would happen to one of mine, I mean, I'll freak out.
So you can emotionally make you can bond at will,
right?
Sort of as you
will.
I guess you almost have to as kind of a protective mechanism.
I know it's not mine.
Yeah.
And it's like, I think, like when Magic got sold, Diane, it was hard for Diane because she didn't know how I would feel about it because I was so attached. Yeah. But I says, Diane, it's your dog. That's your business, is breeding and selling dogs. Mm-hmm. I took care of her because she was very tiny, and I had the time to do it, but now it's time for you to move on. If you find a buyer and go, that's when she goes.
A real mother does have to turn them loose every day, you know, when it's time.
Yes.
Now this one, everybody was very, very pleasant. I'm amazed at how well everybody gets along. And now this one was a little bit not so glad to see company. It was a little bit ornery, and yet when you handed her to me, these are all girls.
All girls.
Which is probably one of the reasons why everybody gets along so well. Okay, now tell me about the story on this one. And what?
That's Deja Lynn. Deja Lynn was my Abigail Elizabeth's twin sister. And Abigail looked exactly like that. And Abigail died a little before she turned 2 with a liver shunt and a heart condition. So, but when she was 18 months old, the lady that bought her in Philadelphia, she couldn't take care of her anymore. So she called Diane, the breeder, and asked Diane if she would locate me and see if I would take her.
Oh.
So
you have a reputation. You're very dialed into this whole community.
Yes.
I knew from spending as much time with Grace in the shop as I did that she began a second business actually early on in her life before she got into the hair business. Grace was a seamstress, and she resurrected this seamstress talent and began making these little costumes for this dog. This dog avocation that she has. And has a little business called Precious Pups Creation. We'll show you at the end if that's what you're into with the dog costumes. A lot of people are doing that these days. But I found out in the course of my day with Gracie that there is a whole other aspect to how these dogs came to her and how that little extra business of making these dog outfits came along. Let's listen to how that happened. Why do you have so many of these little dogs?
Well, September the 13th, 2002, my husband had a blood clot. And at that point, I had Buttons and Deja and Abigail. Okay. Those are the 3 dogs I had. Okay. And he was hospitalized at Reading Hospital for 2 months. And during that time, he had many more little mini strokes and 2 brain surgeries, which left him in a vegetated state.
And this was a healthy man up to this point?
Healthy.
Nothing?
No problem.
Just out of nowhere?
Out of nowhere, this happened.
Out of the blue?
Yeah.
And you were at a stage in your career, you had achieved so many of your career goals, you were ensconced in the community, you pretty much were ready to start to relax and enjoy the fruits of a very well-spent and hard-working life.
My plans were in 2003 I was going to retire and we were going to travel together. Okay. I hold the international hair weaving license that I can teach or do hair weaves anywhere in the world, and that's what I was going to do.
You could travel and get paid, and it was the life you had envisioned for yourself.
That's what I really wanted to do.
You had it all. You had the man you were crazy about, life, career goals, and all of that. And so one day he got up and he said, "Honey, I didn't sleep last night." He said, I had a real bad headache. And I said, well, I'll go downstairs and get aspirins for you and some milk, and I'll come right back. Well, I went up to get him aspirins, and I took him aspirins and milk up. And when I got there, I said, what are you doing? He says, I'm looking for the shirt I had on last night. I said, there it is, baby, right there. He says, no, not that shirt. I had a blue striped shirt on.
So I came downstairs, I called the doctor, and then I called the ambulance, and I took him to the hospital, and they admitted him. And on the 27th, that was the 13th of September, the 27th of September, they gave him his first brain surgery, Dr. Johnson. And then the 28th, he wasn't responding the way Dr. Johnson thought he would, so they took an MRI, and another blood clot about the size of my hand had formed above that. So they went back in and did the second surgery. Then I moved into the hospital. A good friend of mine's, Maddie Pacifico, she moved here into my house to be with my daughter and take care of Dejalyn, Buttons, and Abigail. And I moved in the hospital with my husband. I didn't think twice about giving up my job or giving up my community work. My commitment was to him.
And how long was that?
That was 2 months.
2 months.
2 months, exactly 2 months. On the 13th of November, the doctor told me that they wanted to put him in a nursing home, and I said, no, that's not an option. I'm taking him home. And he said, well, he'll probably won't live no more than a week or two. He can't live in this condition. And he had gotten infections in the hospital. I said, I'll take him home.
And how long have you had Sonny at home here with you?
The 13th of November will be 3 years. And
Amazing.
yes, and that's how I got to get the dogs, because Chelsea, Dejalyn and Abigail and Buttons were very laid-back, quiet dogs.
These were these 3 dogs, and
Right.
these were part of your family, part of your household.
Right.
They knew Sonny.
Yes.
They knew, okay.
And they were very quiet and laid back. And then Abigail died December the 3rd.
This little twin dog.
Yeah.
So a couple of weeks after you're home.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me, I pay for those.
Dejalyn came and got me, because I slept on a recliner chair next to Sonny's bed. Dejalyn, that one, came and got me to let me know that something was wrong with Abigail. She was on Sonny's bed. This was 5 o'clock in the morning, and her gums had turned black. I'd taken her to Philadelphia to specialists. I had a
And you know enough about
University
animals
of
to know that was...
Yes. So I called Janet, the vet, and I took her over, and we had to put her to sleep.
Oh.
That put me in a state of depression.
Do you think that it was a last straw, kind of, with all of...
I just didn't know.
Yeah.
I didn't know what was going on
Something
with
definitely
me.
changed then.
It really, really changed. And I had such a good relationship with my husband, and he had gone blind from the many strokes.
And you were still conversant at that time?
Yes.
At this time you could communicate verbally?
Right. I could, and he could talk to me too.
Okay.
So I called Diane, and I told Diane I wanted a little puppy, and she didn't have any. So I found a guy in the Poconos, and I went up and I bought Charity.
Okay.
And then I said to him, boy, she has big feet. I don't like big dogs. I would have never bought a dog to grow this big. I would have never bought a dog to grow this big, but they told me they were going to be little, like 3 pounds.
I see.
Mm-hmm. So when I decided that, 2 weeks later, I went back up to see Chris, and Chris had Chelsea,
Okay.
a little tiny baby that he said was very small, so I brought her home. And then there was a lot of noise around, and Sonny really perked up because he knew he was home.